Hi everybody, this is Matthew. Today is July 7th, 2022, and this video was recorded around 1 o'clock p.m. So today I decided to take myself out for lunch. So we're coming from the Scrugum Engineering and Mines building at the University of Nevada, Reno, and we're going to be cycling to Jack in the Box, which is an American fast food restaurant, in case you don't know. And also we're going to go to In-N-Out to get the burger. Okay, so we just had to make this weird turn here because there weren't any direct path cycling facilities. We just passed these construction workers having lunch, and we're on a typical American unprotected bike lane, painted bike lane. These are not great for many reasons, but one of them is that any one of these cars can open their door if they don't look behind them, and then they would hit me if I didn't see them. Right now we're going southbound on Evans Avenue. We're coming up on 6th Street here. The city of Reno recently changed this into a four-way stop, which may or may not have been because of the comments I gave to them because of how unsafe it was to be coming north and southbound on this street. Fair bit of pedestrian activity, a bit of bicycle. So here, it was my turn. I had the right of way, but this red truck decided to go right after the car in front of him at this all-way stop intersection. And this driver on the left said a couple of words to me I couldn't understand. That's really common. People like to talk outside of their car to other people while I'm bicycling. Okay, making a right on 5th Street. So this is a brand new, as of this summer, the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County is doing this pilot project, and where they installed protected one-way bike lanes on both sides of the street with the parking and a buffer protecting the cyclists. Really, along this street they did a great job, I have to say. Really props to them. Just waiting at this intersection here. As you'll be able to see, the coordination for cars is not as good going westbound instead of eastbound, so there are going to be more stops rather than coming back. The cycle length here is currently 90 seconds, which the volume density of cars is very low, so I think it's too high. But part of the reason that it's 90 seconds is that the pedestrian crossings, in order to provide enough time and to accommodate them every cycle, then the cycle length has to be closer to 90 seconds. How can we fix that? We can reduce the crossing width, the crossing distance. You got a bike box here. Ideally, we wouldn't need bike boxes, but this is a pilot project. I would imagine RTC and the city are trying a bunch of options, but all of these options have been tested and tried already on an international scale and even throughout the United States. So the results are predictable. Some guys on the left there getting impatient. They wanted to cross, but saw a few more cars. Now it's time for us to go. So let's talk about the capacity of 5th Street right now. So it used to be 2 lanes in each direction. Now it's 1. Since the city or RTC didn't want to take any risks, they chose 5th Street because it's a lighter traffic corridor compared to 6th, 4th, and 2nd Street. But before, there were no turn lanes, right or left turn lanes. And the 2 through lanes were never saturated. And so now that they are 1 lane each direction, still without any turn lanes, do you see any traffic issues? There was a little bit of a backup going eastbound at Sierra Street, but it cleared very quickly. How about the parking spaces? Let's talk about the parking spaces. They seem to be pretty occupied in this section, but it's also worth considering that every one of these businesses has their own off-street parking. Some of these residential homes, some of them may have their own parking and some may not. So in this case, in this time, it's best to keep some off-street parking or on-street parking. But since the roads are really wide, it's easy to accommodate the parking, the through lanes, and the protected bicycle lanes. All of this extra striped area here, right next to me on the left, I'm not really sure why it's so long. Cars do this really frequently. They stop at the last minute, and so I wasn't sure if this blue car on the right was going to stop for me, but they did. So you can see none of the parking here is taken up. How could this space be better utilized? We have another result of the cycle track project, and that's the narrowing of the roadway. So for vehicles, it's a much narrower path to go through, and that's good because it slows down the vehicles. Here's a little bit wider. They managed to put in a center turn lane. Oh, and I just noticed this sharrow in the middle. So in a classical fashion, they just dump the bicycle traffic onto this roadway, onto this right turn lane, and then they put their sharrow in the middle. It completely defeats the purpose, the usefulness of this protected bicycle infrastructure, for at the end they dump you into the middle of the street. So the whole idea of the protected bicycle infrastructure is to provide more of percentage of the population a means of transportation that they feel safe on, and if they can't make a complete trip on this separated and safe infrastructure, then they're not going to make the trip at all. So we're pulling into Jack in the Box through the parking lot. Now I could have taking a drive-through, but I decided to go inside. Alright, welcome back. We're now at In-N-Out. I just finished my Oreo cookie shake from Jack in the Box, and then I biked over to In-N-Out and I had a cheeseburger, animal style. As you can see, there's no bicycle parking at either of these areas. And so I just find a pole here and lock it up. Not too much of a pain in the neck, but it would make things a lot easier if there was bike parking. So this whole area is a brand new development. It just opened in the late winter of this year, 2022. You can see, as usual, the vast amount of car parking. No bike parking, tons of car parking. It just goes on and on. And when will this ever be filled up? I don't think I'll ever see this amount of traffic in this little shopping area. There's only 3 or 4 businesses here, and so with Reno having such a bad housing crisis, all of this prime real estate is used for parking. It could be used for other useful things like housing. So, one of the many costs of free parking. Here we have somebody having his In-N-Out shake on his scooter. Good to see, using the separated facility. You can see that it's silly to put a stop sign for bicycles and scooters. Nobody does it. Why? A couple reasons. First of all, it takes a lot more energy. You have to exert more physical effort to speed up again after you stop. And there are no blind spots when you're in a bicycle, unlike in a car where you have those frame pieces, and so you always have a good view of what's going on. You can also hear what's going on. You can't hear inside a car what's going on the street at a high level. Also, it can be up to the cyclists how do they want to be, how safe do they want to be on the streets? If they want to take some risks as a bicyclist or a scooter, nothing is going to happen to them unless a vehicle hits them. So a bicyclist ran every red light in the city. If there weren't any cars, nothing would happen to them. And if something were to happen, it wouldn't be fatal because the speeds are low. And so it's only the cars that bring the safety problem, as seen through history. So you can see once again on the parking, tons of off-street parking provided by the business, but people still chose to use the on-street parking. So look at this nice and wide bicycle lane, and I chose to take this little step here. A nice little, it wasn't planned, but it's always nice if you don't have to get off the seat of the bicycle and you can set your foot somewhere. And they had this metal structure here. Here, let's talk about it later. Look at this, admire this intersection. This is as close to Dutch separated intersection as it gets in Reno. RTC did a good job in designing this. The bicycle parts of the intersection are well marked. The pedestrian parts are well marked. The turning radius encourages and makes cars go slow. And the bollards and little balls on the road all help. So once again, I ran this red light here. Nobody's coming. The traffic lights are all pre-timed, which are good. I like pre-timed because pedestrians or bicyclists don't have to worry about getting detected. If there's a late arriving pedestrian that just missed the window that they will get served as a pedestrian, they can always go after that window because the walk sign always turns on, as opposed to just missing the window that you push the button. Even though the concurrent phase gets the green light, the pedestrian doesn't, and the pedestrian will have to wait a whole nother cycle. And if it's hot, today wasn't too hot, or if it's cold or rainy, snowy, it's pedestrians are out into the environment, but the cars are in the car. So the priority in travel time should be given where possible to bicycles and pedestrians. And they're also doing the city a favor because they're not degrading the roadway. This car decided to make a right turn in front of me. Should have waited for me to go through. This part of the cycle track is new, but still already has some debris on it. I did see the other day City of Reno has some cleaning, little narrow street cleaners that fit right onto this narrow path, and maybe they were testing it out the other day. But that's exactly what you need to maintain these cycle tracks. It's really important to maintain them very well so that people continue to ride on them and don't have any obstacles. I think it's an improvement here to make this a four-way stop. And then plus, as a result of the four-way stop, the city put in a crosswalk closest to me, crossing the same direction I did on the right there. And before that wasn't there, but yet people would still cross because it's their shortest distance. And it's good because now that they're going to cross, and they always will cross, now it'll be more visible and cars will see them. And also as a four-way stop, at least if cars don't stop all the way, they slow down, and that's what's important. 6th Street, 5th Street, 4th, 2nd Street, those are all high crash corridors designated by the city and the Nevada Department of Transportation. And they are so unsafe because the speeds are so high, so easy to speed. So this micromobility project will definitely help. So here, the construction, they decided to close off one direction of travel, but as usual, no provisions for pedestrians and cyclists. In other countries and even in other cities in America, they will provide a barrier for pedestrians and sometimes even bicycles to still cross and to still use that part of the roadway so that they don't have to make a detour. It's a very easy thing to do, and there's plenty of space on the other side of the street, and put it to the way that I was traveling. And we're speeding through campus. cycling for this trip is actually faster than driving when coming from the university, because parking at the university at my building is very limited, so I would have to walk about 10 minutes to my car and then drive the car for 5-6 minutes to get to the restaurant. And but bicycling only takes about 10 minutes door to door. So already we don't need, it's not some fictional city that we have that bicycle is the best way to go. It already exists, it's just the infrastructure that needs to get there, and some of the land use and some of the parking changes. Alright, thanks for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.